My name is Charlotte. I am 40 years old and I live in a small town in Maine. 7 years. That is how long I waited for this moment. When I finally walked out of the prison gates this morning, I didn't go to a hotel. I went straight to the cemetery. I held a bunch of white lilies in my hands. I squeezed them so tight the plastic stems cut into my skin. I wanted to feel the sharp pain. It told me I was finally free. I stood in front of the gray stone. It said his name, Amir. I came here to forgive him. I came to leave the past in the ground. But then, a little girl stepped out from behind a crooked grave. She looked at me with big, dark eyes. "Ma'am," she said softly, "he is not in that grave." I froze. The wind suddenly felt very cold against my face. "What did you say?" She pointed her small finger at the old caretaker's shed near the trees. "My daddy is in there," she said simply. "He showed me your picture. He said you were busy." Busy. My heart stopped beating. That was the word he used. The exact word he used the day he destroyed my life. I looked at the shed. I saw a shadow move in the window. My husband was not dead. He was watching me. But before I tell you how everything flipped, like and subscribe, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? My name is Charlotte. I am 40 years old. I need to tell you how this started. I need you to understand that I was not always a criminal. I was not always a woman with a prison number. Once, I was just Charlotte. I was 24 years old and I was lonely. It happened 10 years ago. It was a Tuesday. I remember the day because it was raining very hard. I was standing under the shelter at the bus station. I had just finished a long shift at the library. My feet hurt. My coat was thin and the water was dripping down my neck. I was shivering. Then a man stepped under the shelter next to me. He was handsome. He had dark hair and eyes that looked like they were smiling even when his mouth was not. He saw me shaking from the cold. Without saying a word, he took off his heavy leather jacket. He put it around my shoulders. "You look frozen," he said. That was the first time I heard Amir's voice. It was deep and warm. I looked up at him. I wanted to say no, but the jacket was so warm. It smelled like expensive cologne and rain. "Thank you," I said. "I'm Amir," he said. "I'm Charlotte." We missed 3 buses that night. We just stood there and talked. He told me he was a dreamer. He told me he wanted to build something big, but he didn't have the organization skills. He said he needed someone smart, someone who could see the details he missed. I told him I was good with numbers. I told him I liked order and rules. He smiled at me. It was the kind of smile that made you feel like you were the only person in the world. "We would make a good team, Charlotte," he said. I mistook his charm for character. I thought he was kind because he gave me a jacket. I did not know that he was investing in me. He was planting a seed. We fell in love fast. It was intense. Amir was like a fire. He was passionate and loud. I was the quiet one. I was the water that kept him steady. We moved in together after 3 months. Then we started the business. It was a consulting firm. We helped companies fix their finances. It sounds boring, but we were good at it. Actually, I was good at it. I did all the work. I sat at the kitchen table until 2 in the morning. I made the spreadsheets. I balanced the books. I found the tax loopholes. I did all the hard thinking. Amir did the talking. He put on his nice suits. He went to the fancy dinners. He shook hands with rich men. He brought in the clients. He was the face of the company. I was the brain. Money started coming in, a lot of money. We moved from a small apartment to a big house. Amir bought a new car. He bought me nice dresses. He told me to wear blue because it made me look elegant. He told me how to do my hair. "You need to look the part, Charlotte," he would say. "You are the wife of a successful man now." I felt special. I thought he was taking care of me. I didn't see the truth. He was controlling everything. Sometimes I would ask to see the main bank accounts. I wanted to double-check the deposits. He would get angry, not loud angry, but quiet angry. He would sigh and look disappointed. "Charlotte," he would say, "don't you trust me? I am out there all day working for us. Can't you just let me handle the banking? You do the accounting. Stay in your lane, honey." I felt guilty. I didn't want him to think I didn't trust him, so I stopped asking. I let him handle the signatures. I let him talk to the lawyers. I stayed in the office, behind the computer screen. I was happy. I truly believed we were partners. I thought we were building a life together. But Amir was not building a life with me. He was building a trap, and he was waiting for the right moment to spring it. The end of my life came on a Thursday morning. The sun was just coming up. I was in the kitchen making coffee. The house was quiet. Amir was still asleep upstairs. I was wearing my robe. I felt calm. Then the front door exploded. It wasn't a knock. It was a battering ram. The door flew open with a loud crash. I dropped my coffee mug. It shattered on the floor. Hot coffee splashed on my bare feet. Men in black jackets swarmed into my house. They had guns, they were shouting. "Federal agents, nobody move, hands where I can see them," I screamed. I put my hands up. I was shaking so hard I could barely stand. Amir ran down the stairs. He was wearing his silk pajamas. He looked shocked. But now, when I look back, I realize something. He didn't look scared. He looked ready. They separated us. They put me in the kitchen on a chair. They put Amir in the living room. A woman in a suit stood over me. She read me my rights. "You are under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, and money laundering," she said. "No," I whispered. "There is a mistake. We run a clean business. Ask my husband. He will tell you." I waited for Amir to come in. I waited for him to yell at them. I waited for him to fix it. He was the talker. He always fixed everything. But the house was silent. They took us to the station in separate cars. I sat in the back of the police car. The handcuffs were tight on my wrists. The metal was cold. I felt like I was in a nightmare. I kept thinking, Amir will explain. Amir will explain. They put me in an interrogation room. It was a small gray box with a metal table. An agent came in. He threw a stack of papers on the table. "We have you, Charlotte," he said. "We have your signature on everything." I looked at the papers. They were transfer documents. They moved millions of dollars into illegal accounts, and at the bottom of every page there was my signature. "I didn't sign this," I said. My voice was shaking. "It looks like your signature," the agent said. "It's a forgery," I cried. "I never saw these papers." "Your husband says you handled the books," the agent said. "He says he didn't know anything about the finances. He says you were the one in charge of the accounts. He is cooperating with us, Charlotte." The room spun. He is cooperating. That meant he was talking. And he was blaming me. I didn't believe it. I couldn't. I demanded to see him. I saw him 3 days later at the bail hearing. He looked tired. He was wearing a sad expression. He looked at me with tears in his eyes. When the guards led me past him, he reached out and squeezed my hand. "Trust me," he whispered. "I'm doing what I have to do to save the business. Just stay quiet, I will get us out of this." I was stupid. I loved him. I thought he had a plan. I thought if I stayed quiet, he would bring proof that we were innocent. So I didn't fight. I didn't scream that he was a liar. I sat there and let them call me a thief. The trial was short. The evidence was overwhelming. All the fake accounts were in my name. The computer history showed my login was used to move the money. He had used my computer while I was asleep. He had practiced my signature for years. On the day of the sentencing, Amir was not there. His lawyer said he was too emotionally distraught to see his wife go to prison. The judge looked at me with disgust. "Charlotte, you are a brilliant woman," he said. "It is a shame you used your mind for crime." He sentenced me to 7 years in federal prison. I looked back at the door. I wanted Amir to burst in. I wanted him to say stop. It was me, but the doors stayed closed. They took me away in chains. Amir walked free. He kept the house. He kept the money. He kept his life. And I went into the dark. Prison is not like the movies. It is not exciting. It is just gray. The walls are gray. The floors are gray. The food is gray. Even the women start to look gray after a while. The first year I was broken. I cried every night. I wrote letters to Amir every week. "Amir, please help me. Amir, why aren't you visiting? Amir, I am scared." He never wrote back, not once. I started to die inside. I stopped eating. I lost weight. I became a ghost. I thought I deserved it. I thought maybe I had made a mistake. Maybe I really was bad. Then I met Sarah. Sarah was my cellmate. She was 60 years old. She had short white hair and glasses taped together in the middle. She was in prison for tax fraud. She used to be a forensic accountant for a big bank. One night, she saw me crying over a picture of Amir. "Why do you cry for him?" she asked. Her voice was rough like sandpaper. "He is my husband," I said. "He is trying to help me." Sarah laughed. It was a dry, mean laugh. "Honey, if he was helping you, you wouldn't be in here." She made me tell her the story. She made me explain the business, the accounts, the signatures. She listened carefully. "He set you up," she said simply. "It's a classic move. The charm, the trust, the isolation. He made you the fall guy." "No," I defended him. "He loves me." "Let's prove it," she said. We started going to the prison law library. Sarah taught me how to look at financial records. She taught me how to trace shell companies. I filed requests for my own case files. It took months, but I got the boxes of documents. We sat on the floor of the library for hours. We followed the money trail. It was like a puzzle. And once I started looking with clear eyes, I saw it. Amir hadn't just panicked. He had planned this for 2 years. I found transfers dating back to when we were happy. Every time we went on a vacation, he moved money. Every time he bought me a gift, he opened a fake account in my name. He was stealing from our clients and hiding it. He knew the raid was coming. He made sure all the arrows pointed to me. I sat in the library and stared at the papers. My love turned into something cold and hard. It turned into hate. I stopped writing letters. I started studying. I learned everything Sarah knew. I learned about offshore accounts. I learned about digital footprints. I learned how to find money that people want to hide. I became sharper. I became dangerous. Then 3 years into my sentence, the warden called me to her office. She looked uncomfortable. "Charlotte," she said, "I have bad news." My heart jumped. "Is it Amir?" "Yes," she said. "There was a car accident last night. Your husband, he didn't make it." She gave me a newspaper clipping. It was a small obituary. Amir, beloved businessman, died in a tragic crash, private funeral. I went back to my cell. I sat on my bunk. I didn't cry. I felt empty. He was dead. He died with my money. He died with my freedom. I would never get to scream at him. I would never get to hear him say sorry. I mourned him. But I wasn't mourning the man. I was mourning the time I wasted. I was mourning the Charlotte who died the day he met her. I spent the next 4 years in silence. I worked in the library. I read books. I exercised until my body was strong. I prepared for my release. I thought he was gone. I thought the story was over. I was wrong. The bus ride from the prison to the city took 4 hours. I looked out the window at the fields and the cars. Everything moved so fast. I had $50 in my pocket and a small bag of clothes. I got off the bus and walked to a flower shop. I bought the white lilies. They cost $12. That was a lot of money for me, but I needed to do it. I needed to say goodbye. I walked to the cemetery. It was on a hill overlooking the city. It was a quiet day. The sky was gray, just like the prison walls. I found his grave. It was in the nice section, near the big oak trees. The stone was polished marble. Amir, beloved husband, I stared at the words. Beloved husband. What a lie. I knelt down. The grass was wet. I gripped the flowers. The plastic stems dug into my palms. I hate you, I whispered to the dirt. You stole my life, and then you died before I could fix it. I was about to lay the flowers down when I heard the crunch of leaves. I turned my head. A little girl was standing there. She was about 5 years old. She had curly dark hair and big, serious eyes. She was wearing a pink coat that looked expensive. She was staring at me. "Hello," she said. I wiped my face. I didn't want to scare her. "Hello," I said. She pointed at the grave. "That's my daddy's name," she said. I felt a pang of pity. "I'm sorry," I said. "Did you lose your daddy too?" She shook her head. "No, my daddy isn't in there," I frowned. "What do you mean?" "He is over there," she said. She turned and pointed. I followed her finger. She was pointing to the old caretaker's shed at the edge of the cemetery. It was a small brick building used for storing lawnmowers and tools. "My daddy is the caretaker now," she said. "He likes to be quiet. He showed me your picture." My blood ran cold. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. "He showed you my picture?" I asked. My voice sounded very far away. "Yes," the girl said. "He has it in his wallet. He said, 'This is Charlotte. She is away being busy.'" Busy, that word. It hit me like a physical blow. Amir used to say that all the time. "I'm just busy, Charlotte. Don't worry, I'm busy." I stood up slowly. My legs felt weak. "What is your name?" I asked the girl. "Elena," she said. "Elena. Amir used to tell me if we ever have a daughter, I want to name her Elena." I looked at the shed again. The window was dirty, but there was a light on inside. I saw a shadow move. It was the silhouette of a man. He was pacing, back and forth. I knew that walk. I knew the way his shoulders slumped. I knew the tilt of his head. It was him. He wasn't dead. He had faked it. Just like he faked the documents. Just like he faked his love for me. He faked his death to escape the debts, or maybe to escape the guilt, or maybe just to start over with all the money he stole. And he had started over. He had a new wife. He had a daughter. He had my dream daughter. He was alive. I dropped the lilies. They fell onto the muddy grass. "Elena," I said. I tried to keep my voice steady. "Go play over there, okay?" She ran off to chase a butterfly. I stood alone in the wind. The shock washed over me and then it drained away. What was left was not sadness. It was clarity. For 7 years, I had been a victim. I had been the fool. I had been the prisoner. But as I watched that shadow in the shed, something inside me clicked. The lock on my heart snapped open. I wasn't a prisoner anymore. He thought I was gone. He thought I was broken. He thought he was safe in his little shed with his stolen life. He was wrong. I took a step toward the shed, then another. I didn't run. I walked, calm, steady. I was not Charlotte the wife anymore. I was Charlotte the survivor. And I had work to do. I walked out of the cemetery. My legs were moving, but I couldn't feel them. The ground felt soft like I was walking on a mattress. My mind was empty. Then it was full. It was full of noise. He is alive. He is alive. He is alive. I walked all the way back to the bus stop. I sat on the metal bench. It was cold. The cold metal pressed against my legs through my thin pants. I needed that cold. It reminded me I was real. I looked at my hands. These hands had scrubbed prison floors for 7 years. These hands had held a tray of gray food every day. These hands had written letters to a dead man, but he wasn't dead. He was 10 minutes away. He was sitting in a warm room. He was probably drinking coffee. He was probably looking at his phone. He was living the life I helped him build. I felt something hot in my chest. It wasn't just anger. It was shame. I felt stupid. I had mourned him. I had cried for him. I had protected his secrets because I thought he died trying to save us. I was a fool. The bus came. I got on. I didn't go back to the station. I went into the city center. I had to disappear. If Amir saw me, he would run again. Or worse, he might try to hurt me. He had already killed Charlotte the wife. He wouldn't mind killing Charlotte the ex-convict. I needed a place to think. I found a cheap hostel on 4th Street. It was a narrow building with peeling paint. The sign said rooms, weekly rates. I went inside. The lobby smelled like old cigarettes and bleach. The man behind the desk didn't look at me. $40 a night, he said. I counted my money. I had $50 left. I gave him the money. He gave me a key. Room 2 billion. The room was small. It had a single bed and a sink. The window looked out at a brick wall. I sat on the bed. The springs squeaked. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the dark. I watched the shadows move across the floor. I thought about the last 10 years. I thought about the day the police came. I remembered Amir's face. He had looked so sad. He had squeezed my hand. Trust me, he said. He wasn't sad. He was acting. He knew exactly what he was doing. He knew the accounts were in my name. He knew the passwords were mine. He knew I would never speak against him. He used my love like a weapon. He pointed it at me and pulled the trigger. By morning, the sun came through the dirty window. The light hit my face. I stood up. I was not crying anymore. I was done crying. I went to the sink. I washed my face with cold water. I looked in the mirror. I looked older. My hair was dull. My skin was pale. I had lines around my mouth, but my eyes were different. They were hard. You are not a victim, I said to the mirror. You are a hunter. I left the hostel. I walked to the public library. It was a safe place. It was free. It had computers. I sat down at a terminal in the back corner. I didn't want anyone to see my screen. I started to work. In prison, my cellmate Sarah taught me how to look for money. She told me, money is like water. It always flows somewhere. You just have to find the pipes. I started with the cemetery, Phoenix Gardens. I searched for the company records. It was owned by a larger company called Blue Horizon Holdings. I searched for Blue Horizon Holdings. It was registered in Nevada. The owner was listed as an LLC. I kept digging. I followed the names. I followed the addresses. It took me 4 hours. My eyes hurt. My stomach was growling because I hadn't eaten, but I didn't stop. Finally, I found it. A document for a property tax filing. It listed the managing partner of Blue Horizon Holdings, Arthur Miller. I searched the name, Arthur Miller. Photos appeared. My breath caught in my throat. It was him. He looked different. He had a beard. His hair was shorter and gray. He wore glasses, but it was Amir. I knew the shape of his ears. I knew the way he held his chin up when he smiled. The article said, Arthur Miller, local philanthropist and real estate developer, donates to City Park. There was a picture of him shaking hands with the mayor. He was smiling. It was the same smile he used to give me. The charm, the warmth. I read more. He lived in the North District. He had a wife named Alina. He had a daughter named Elena. Alina and Elena. He even named them like us. It was sick. He was reliving our life, but with someone else. I needed to know more. I couldn't just go to the police yet. If I went to the police now, they might not believe me. I was a convicted felon. He was a respected businessman. He would say I was crazy. He would say I was lying. I needed proof. I needed to destroy him from the inside. I spent the next 3 days in the library. I became a ghost. I arrived when they opened. I left when they closed. I ate cheap sandwiches from the vending machine. I started to map out his life. I found his business website. I found his email address. Now came the hard part. I needed to see his money. Amir was smart, but he was also lazy. He was a creature of habit. When we were married, he used the same 3 passwords for everything. He said he couldn't be bothered to remember new ones. He used the date of his mother's death. He used the street number of his first house. He used the date we met. I tried to log into his company portal. Username, Amir password. 10,141,998 his mother's birthday. Access denied. I tried again. Password, 342 Oak Street. Access denied. I paused. I closed my eyes. I thought about the little girl, Elena. He loved that child. I saw it in his eyes at the shed. He was obsessed with his new life. I typed, Alan at 2020. The screen flickered. A green bar appeared. Loading. I stopped breathing. Welcome, Arthur Miller. I was inside his private server. I saw folders, tax returns, investments, overseas, personal. I opened the overseas folder. My hands started to shake. It was all there. Bank statements from the Cayman Islands, wire transfers from Switzerland, and then I saw the dates. The transfers started 10 years ago. The dates matched the days when our old business was raided. He had moved the money out of our accounts 2 days before the FBI came. He knew. He emptied our accounts, framed me for the missing money, and then hid it here. He stole $5 million, and he had been growing it. The balance now was over $12 million. I stared at the number. $12 million. That money cost me 7 years of my life. That money cost me my reputation. That money was the reason I slept on a metal cot and showered with 20 other women. I felt a tear roll down my cheek. It was a tear of rage. I didn't just want him arrested. I wanted him ruined. I started downloading. I downloaded every statement. I downloaded every email where he talked about hiding funds. I downloaded the fake invoices he used to launder the money. I saved everything to a cloud drive. I made 3 copies. Then I did something else. I looked at his schedule. It was in his calendar. Friday, 7 p.m. gala dinner at the museum. Saturday, 10 a.m. golf. Tonight, 8 p.m. home, dinner with family. Tonight. I looked at the clock on the wall. It was 4 p.m. I had 4 hours. I logged out of the computer. I wiped my history. I stood up. My legs felt strong. I left the library. The city air was cool. People were walking past me. They were laughing, talking on phones, rushing home. They didn't know that a woman was walking among them with a bomb in her pocket. Not a real bomb, a truth bomb. I walked to a thrift store down the street. I had $10 left. I found a black dress. It was simple. It was long sleeves. It looked like something a serious woman would wear. It cost $6. I went back to the hostel. I took a shower. I scrubbed my skin until it was red. I wanted to wash off the prison. I wanted to wash off the library dust. I put on the black dress. It fit perfectly. I brushed my hair. I didn't have makeup. I didn't need it. My face was pale, but my eyes were bright. I looked like a ghost. That was good. I was going to haunt him. I packed my small bag. I put the USB drive with the evidence in my pocket. I also had a folder with the printed papers. I checked out of the hostel. The man at the desk looked at me. Leaving? He asked. Yes, I said. Where are you going? To a funeral, I said. He looked confused. I didn't explain. I was going to a funeral. I was going to bury Arthur Miller. I was going to dig up the truth about Amir. I walked to the bus stop. I waited for the number 6 bus. It went to the North District, the rich district. The sun was setting. The sky was turning purple and gray. It looked like a bruise. I got on the bus. I sat in the back. I watched the city change. The buildings got nicer. The streets got cleaner. The cars got more expensive. This was his world now. He thought he was safe here behind his high gates and his security alarms. He thought the past stayed in the past. He forgot one thing. The past doesn't die, it just waits. I was the past, and I was coming for him. The bus dropped me off 2 blocks away from his house. It was dark now. The streetlights were on. They cast long yellow shadows on the sidewalk. I walked slowly. I wasn't in a hurry. I wanted to feel every step. The houses here were mansions. They had big lawns and tall fences. I checked the address numbers. 240, 242. I stopped at 2410. It was a white colonial house. It was beautiful. It had pillars in the front. There were rose bushes by the gate. A fountain was playing in the driveway. It was the kind of house we used to talk about late at night. "One day, Charlotte," he would say. "One day we will live in a house like a palace." He got the palace. I got the dungeon. I walked to the gate. It was tall iron. There was a keypad. I stood there for a moment. I listened to the fountain. It sounded peaceful. Inside that house, there was a family eating dinner. A father, a mother, a daughter. It was a perfect picture. I was about to slash the canvas. I looked at the keypad. Amir was lazy, I knew that. But was he this lazy? Would he use the same code for his house gate that he used for his gym locker 10 years ago? I reached out. My finger hovered over the keys. 1980. His birth year. The light blinked red. I tried again. 1014. His mother again. Red light. I took a deep breath. I thought about the new password, the one that opened his computer. 2020. The year Elena was born. I pressed the buttons. Beep, 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 beep. The light turned green. There was a heavy clack of a lock releasing. The gate swung open silently. I almost laughed. It was a sad, bitter laugh. He was so predictable. He built a fortress, but he used the same key for everything. He thought he was a genius, but he was just a man with habits. I slipped inside. I closed the gate behind me. I didn't walk up the driveway. I walked on the grass. I stayed in the shadows of the trees. I moved like I learned to move in prison, quiet, eyes down, unseen. I went around to the back of the house. There were large glass doors looking into the kitchen. The lights were on. I stood behind a large oak tree and watched. I saw them. They were sitting at a round table. The wife, Elena, was serving food. She was laughing. She looked kind. She was wearing a blue sweater. Amir Arthur was sitting at the head of the table. He was cutting a piece of meat. He looked relaxed. He said something and the little girl, Elena, giggled. My heart twisted. It was a physical pain. That should have been me. That was my seat. That was my husband. That was my laughter. He had stolen my timeline. I watched them for 5 minutes. I let the anger burn away the fear. I let the injustice soak into my bones. Then Elena stood up. She took Elena's hand. Time for bath, I heard her say faintly through the glass. They left the kitchen. Amir stayed. He poured himself a glass of wine. He picked up his phone. His face changed. The smile dropped. He looked worried. He started typing. He was seeing the alerts. He was seeing the logins from the library. He knew someone was poking around. But he didn't know who. Now was the time. I walked to the glass door. I tried the handle. Locked. I looked for a key. Amir used to hide a spare key under a rock near the back door. It was a cliché, but he loved clichés. I looked at the flower pots near the door. There was a fake rock that looked too clean. I lifted it. There was a silver key. You arrogant man, I whispered. I put the key in the lock. I turned it. Click, I opened the door. The air inside the house smelled like roasted chicken and expensive perfume. It smelled rich. I stepped onto the tile floor. My cheap shoes made a soft squeak. Amir didn't hear me. He was staring at his phone, rubbing his forehead. He looked stressed. Damn it, he muttered. Who is accessing these files? I am, I said. My voice was soft. It wasn't a scream. It was a statement. He jumped. He spun around in his chair. The wine glass hit the table and tipped over. Red wine spilled across the white tablecloth like blood. He stared at me. His eyes went wide. His mouth opened. He blinked as if he was trying to clear a hallucination. Charlotte, he whispered. It was barely a sound. I stood still. I held my hands in front of me. I was calm. Hello, Amir. He stood up. He stumbled. He held onto the back of the chair. You're in prison. I was, I said, for 7 years, but my sentence ended last week. Didn't you keep track? He shook his head. No, I thought you were gone. I know, I said. I saw the grave. It's a nice stone, Amir. Beloved husband. Very touching. He started to breathe fast. He looked at the hallway door, checking if his wife was coming back. Keep your voice down, he hissed. My family is upstairs. Your family, I repeated. You mean the family you bought with my money? The family you built on my grave? He walked around the table. He put his hands up. Charlotte, listen to me. It's not what you think. I had to do it. The feds were closing in. If I stayed, we both would have gone to jail. I had to save the assets. You didn't save the assets, I said. You stole them. You pinned every crime on me. You forged my signature. You let me rot in a cell while you lived here in a palace. I was going to come back for you, he lied. I could see it in his eyes. He was inventing the lie right now. I was going to get you out. I needed time. 10 years, I said. You needed 10 years and a new wife and a new child. He stopped. He knew the lie wasn't working. He changed tactics. He tried to be the charmer again. He took a step toward me. He softened his face. "Charlotte, baby," he said. "I missed you. You have no idea how hard it was for me. I was lonely, I was scared. I felt sick. Don't call me that. We can fix this," he said. "I have money now, real money. I can give you anything. You want $1 million? 2 million, I can transfer it right now. You can go to Europe. You can start a new life. Just go, please." He was begging. He wasn't sorry for what he did. He was just sorry he got caught. He wanted to pay me off like a bad debt. "I don't want your money," I said. "Then what do you want?" he snapped. The charm was gone. The monster was back. "You want to kill me? Is that it? You have a gun?" "No," I said. "I don't need a gun." I walked to the table. I avoided the spilled wine. I placed the manila folder on the wet tablecloth. "What is this?" he asked. "It's your life," I said. "It's the bank records from the Caymans. It's the wire transfers. It's the proof that Arthur Miller is actually Amir, the man who died in a car crash 10 years ago." His face went gray. He looked at the folder like it was radioactive. "You can't," he whispered. "You can't do this. It will destroy everything." "You destroyed everything 10 years ago," I said. "I'm just balancing the ledger." "My daughter," he pleaded. Tears were actually running down his face now. "She's innocent. She's just a child. Don't punish her for my mistakes." "I'm not punishing her," I said. "I'm saving her. I'm stopping you before you do to her what you did to me." He stared at me. He saw the truth in my eyes. He saw that I couldn't be bought. I couldn't be charmed, and I couldn't be scared. "I already sent the files," I said. "To the FBI, to the IRS, to the news." He fell back into his chair. He put his head in his hands. He made a sound like a wounded animal. "They will be here soon," I said. "Maybe an hour, maybe less." "Why?" he moaned. "Why didn't you just take the money?" "Because," I said, "I wanted to look you in the eye. I wanted you to know that I am not stupid anymore. I wanted you to see me." I turned around. "Charlotte," he yelled. I stopped at the door. I looked back. He looked small. The big house, the expensive suit, the wine, it didn't make him a king. It just made him a thief in a costume. "My name is Charlotte," I said, "but to you, I'm just the bill collector, and your time is up." I walked out the door. I walked into the night air. It was starting to rain again. A light, misty rain. I didn't mind. It felt like a baptism. I didn't run away. I didn't hide. I crossed the street to the park opposite his house. I found a bench under a tree. I sat down. I waited. I wasn't scared of what would happen next. I had done the hardest thing. I had faced my ghost. And I realized he wasn't a ghost at all. He was just a man. A weak, selfish man. And I was the woman who survived him. I sat on the park bench across the street. The rain was getting heavier. It soaked my black dress. It pasted my hair to my forehead. But I didn't move. I needed to see this finish. I checked my watch. It was 5:45 a.m. The sky was turning a lighter shade of gray. The birds were starting to wake up. Then I heard it. At first it was just a low hum. Then it became a siren. Then many sirens. Blue and red lights cut through the morning mist. They were beautiful. They were the most beautiful lights I had ever seen. 4 black SUVs raced down the street. They didn't slow down at the stop signs. They turned sharp into Amir's driveway. Behind them came 2 police cars. They screeched to a halt. Doors flew open. Men in tactical gear jumped out. They had FBI written on the back of their jackets in bright yellow letters. They had guns drawn. They moved fast like a machine. "Federal agents. Open up," a voice boomed over a loudspeaker. They didn't wait for him to open the door. They used a ram. Boom, the front door splintered. They swarmed inside. I watched the windows. I saw lights turning on in the upstairs bedrooms. I saw shadows running. A minute later, the front door opened again. They dragged him out. Amir was not wearing his suit anymore. He was in his pajamas. He was barefoot. His hands were cuffed behind his back. He was fighting. He was kicking his legs and twisting his body. He was shouting something, but I couldn't hear the words. He looked wild. He looked like an animal caught in a trap. The charm was gone. The dignity was gone. He was just a criminal. Behind him, I saw the wife, Elena. She walked out slowly. She was holding Elena in her arms. Elena was wearing a white robe. She looked terrified. She was crying, shaking her head. She tried to reach for Amir, but an agent held her back. "Don't touch him, ma'am," the agent said loud enough for me to hear. Elena was screaming. "Daddy, Daddy," that sound cut me. It hurt my heart. That little girl didn't know her father was a thief. She only knew he was her daddy. I felt a sharp pain of guilt. I had done this. I had caused this pain. But then I remembered the prison cell. I remembered the 7 years I lost. I remembered that if I didn't stop him, he would do this to Elena eventually. He would use her credit. He would ruin her future. I was hurting her now to save her later. They pushed Amir toward one of the subs. An agent put his hand on Amir's head to guide him into the car. Just before he got in, Amir stopped. He looked up. He looked across the street. I don't know if he saw me. It was dark under the tree. But he looked right at the spot where I was sitting. He stopped struggling. His shoulders slumped. He let out a long breath. He knew it wasn't bad luck. He knew it wasn't a mistake. He knew it was me. He got into the car. The door slammed shut. The convoy started to move. The sirens wailed again. They drove away, taking the lie with them. The house was silent. The front door was broken, hanging off its hinges. Elena sat on the front steps. She put Elena down. The little girl buried her face in her mother's lap and sobbed. Elena looked at the empty driveway. She looked completely lost. Her world had just ended. I stood up. My legs were stiff. I crossed the street. I walked up the driveway. The gravel crunched under my wet shoes. Elena looked up. Her eyes were red and swollen. Her makeup was running down her face in black streaks. "Who are you?" she asked. Her voice was trembling. I stopped at the bottom of the steps. "I knew him," I said, "a long time ago." She looked at me. She looked at my cheap dress, my wet hair. Then she looked at the folder I was still holding, my copy of the evidence. "Did you?" She pointed at the cars disappearing down the road. "Did you call them?" "He called them on himself," I said gently. "I just made sure they had the right address." She looked down at Elena. "Why? Why did you do this?" "We were happy." "You weren't happy," I said. "You were deceived. Everything in this house, the cars, the clothes, the food, it was all stolen. He stole it from investors. He stole it from the government. And he stole it from me." She looked confused. "From you? I was his wife," I said. Her mouth fell open. "No, his wife died. He told me. She died in a car crash 10 years ago. He showed me the obituary." "I am the obituary," I said. "He framed me for his crimes. I spent 7 years in prison for things he did. While I was in a cage, he came here and found you." She stared at me. She was trying to process it. It was too much. But deep down, she believed me. She knew something was wrong with him. Wives always know. We see the secrets in their eyes. We ignore them because we want to be happy, but we know. "He lied to me," she whispered. "He lied about everything." "Yes," I said. "He is a liar. That is what he does." Elena lifted her head. She wiped her eyes with her small fists. She looked at me. Her eyes went wide. "The flower lady," she whispered. I managed a small, sad smile. "Hello, Elena. You were at the cemetery," she said. "Yes," I said. "You showed me where he was hiding." Elena pulled her daughter closer. She looked at me with fear. "What do you want from us? We have nothing, the police. They will take everything." "I don't want anything," I said. I reached into my pocket. I pulled out a small velvet pouch. Inside was a diamond ring. It was the only thing I had managed to keep hidden in prison. I had sewn it into the hem of my pants. It was my mother's ring. It was worth maybe $3,000. Not a lot, but enough. I held it out to her. "Take this," I said. "What?" She pulled back. "The lawyers will freeze his accounts by noon," I said. "You won't have access to cash. The credit cards will stop working. They will seize the house. Take this ring. Go to a pawn shop. Get cash. Buy food, buy bus tickets. Go to your parents. Get out of here before the reporters come." She looked at the ring, then she looked at my face. She saw that I wasn't trying to hurt her. She took the pouch. Her hand was shaking. "Thank you," she whispered. Why are you helping me? You should hate me." "I don't hate you," I said. "You are a victim just like I was, but you have something I didn't have." "What?" she asked. I nodded at Elena. "You have her, save her. Don't let her grow up thinking her father was a hero. Teach her to be honest. Teach her to be strong." Elena nodded. She squeezed the pouch tight. "I will." I looked at the house one last time. It was a beautiful lie. But now the truth had blown the door off the hinges. "Goodbye," I said. I turned around and walked down the driveway. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I knew they would be okay. Elena was a survivor. She just didn't know it yet. I walked for an hour. I walked out of the rich neighborhood. I walked past the gates and the gardens. I walked until the houses got smaller and the streets got dirtier. I found a diner near the highway. It was a small silver building with a neon sign that buzzed, "Joe's Diner." I went inside. It was warm. It smelled like coffee and bacon. I sat at the counter. I was the only customer. The waitress was an older woman with tired eyes. She poured me a cup of coffee without asking. "Rough night, honey?" she asked. I looked at my reflection in the napkin holder. I looked wet and exhausted. You could say that, I said. On the house, she said, sliding a donut onto a plate. You look like you need the sugar. I ate the donut. It tasted amazing. It was the best thing I had ever eaten. As I ate, I watched the small TV in the corner. It was showing the morning news. Breaking news. Local tycoon arrested in dawn raid. They showed footage of the house. They showed Amir being shoved into the car. They showed his face. The reporter was talking fast. Arthur Miller, also known as Amir Vance, was arrested this morning on charges of massive fraud, identity theft, and money laundering. Authorities say Vance faked his own death 10 years ago. I watched it. I felt detached. It was like watching a movie about someone else. Then they showed a clip of the cemetery. The reporter was standing in front of the caretaker's shed. Police say Vance was running his criminal empire from the shed, hidden in plain sight. And then, for a split second, the camera panned to the side. I saw Elena. She was walking with her mother to a taxi. She was holding a small suitcase. She looked sad, but she wasn't crying anymore. She was holding her head up. She looked at the camera. Her eyes were dark and serious. She looked like me, not physically. She looked like Amir, but her expression, that was me. That was the look of a girl who had seen the truth too early. I put my coffee cup down. I wasn't worried about her. She was free. Amir used people. He used me. He used Elena. He would have used Elena. He would have turned her into a prop for his fake life. He would have taught her to lie. He would have taught her that money was more important than people. I stopped that. I broke the cycle. She would grow up poor now. She wouldn't have the big house or the pony, but she would have the truth. She would know that actions have consequences. She would know that you can't build a life on lies. That was my gift to her. I finished my coffee. I felt stronger. The caffeine was waking up my brain. I had no money. I had no home. I had given my last valuable thing to Elena. But I felt rich. I had my name back. I wasn't inmate 78,402 anymore. I wasn't Mrs. Vance. I was Charlotte, just Charlotte. I thanked the waitress and walked out of the diner. The sun was fully up now. The clouds were breaking apart. The sky was a brilliant, sharp blue. I walked to the side of the highway. I put my thumb out. I didn't know where I was going. Maybe the coast. I had always liked the ocean. Maybe I would go to a small town where nobody knew me. I could work in a bookstore. I could do taxes for farmers. I could live a quiet, simple life. A truck slowed down. It was a big red rig. The driver leaned over and opened the passenger door. Need a lift? He asked. Yes, please, I said. I climbed up. The seat was high. I could see everything. I could see the road stretching out for miles. Where you headed? The driver asked. I smiled. Away, he laughed. That's the best direction. He put the truck in gear. We started to move. I leaned back in the seat. I closed my eyes. I thought about Amir sitting in a cell right now. He was probably yelling at his lawyer. He was probably trying to make a deal. He was trapped in the past. I was moving into the future. 3 months later. The ocean breeze is cold, but I like it. It makes me feel alive. I live in a small town in Maine. It is quiet here. The people are nice. They don't ask too many questions. I work in a bakery. I knead dough at 4 a.m. I like the work. It is simple. You follow the recipe, you wait for the dough to rise, and you get bread. It is honest. There are no tricks. If you cheat the ingredients, the bread fails. It is the opposite of Amir's world. I rent a small room above the bakery. It smells like yeast and cinnamon. I have a bed, a chair, and a window that looks at the sea. Yesterday, I got a letter. It had no return address. But the handwriting was shaky and small. I opened it. There was a drawing inside. It was done with crayons. It showed a woman with long hair holding a flower. Next to her was a little girl. They were holding hands. The sun was yellow and big in the corner. At the bottom it said, "Thank you," and signed. Elena. There was a photo tucked behind the drawing. It was Elena and Elena. They were standing in front of a small house. It looked like a grandma's house. Elena was wearing a waitress uniform. She looked tired, but she was smiling. A real smile. Elena was holding a puppy. They were okay. I taped the drawing to my wall. It was my medal. It was the proof that I did the right thing. I finished my shift at the bakery. I wiped the flour off my hands. I walked down to the beach. The tide was coming in. The waves were crashing against the rocks. Boom, boom. I thought about the cemetery one last time. I thought about the grave with the name Amir on it. By now, the police would have dug it up. They would have found the empty coffin. The news would be talking about the empty grave scandal. But to me, that grave wasn't empty. I had buried something there. I buried my anger. I buried my hate. I buried the victim I used to be. I looked at the ocean. It was vast and wild. It didn't care about money. It didn't care about lies. It just was. I took a deep breath of the salty air. I am 40 years old. I have no retirement fund. I have no husband. I have scars on my heart that will never fully heal. But I am free. I am not afraid of the dark anymore. I lived in the dark for 7 years and I learned how to see. I turned away from the water. I walked back toward the town. The streetlights were flickering on. I saw the bakery sign glowing warm and yellow. I walked toward the light. My name is Charlotte, and my story is just beginning.